my YouTube friends. I'm back today for another video, hopefully. I just left the house and heading into town. My plein air group, we're going to meet at the old woolen mill here in Cleveland, Tennessee. It's where my studio gallery is located, and it'll be our first plein air painting session of the year. Finally got some nice weather here. What is today, the 6th? February 6th. So our first meetup of the year. Looks like it's going to be a nice sunny day. I think some of my friends are already down there painting. Got an early start, but I'm on my way down there now. So I will see you soon from the old woolen mill in Cleveland, Tennessee. So I'm just stopped into my studio there, here in the Art House Project. It's pretty bright today. Can't complain, right? All this cold weather we've had. So, head down this way to where everybody else is set up. Okay, from this point on, I'm going to do some voiceover. As you can see, my plein air group's there already, and I didn't want to interrupt their painting with me talking there. So, getting started with some perspective lines on the buildings and generally establishing the composition. Looking down, it's like an alleyway between a couple of the buildings with an overhang with some cast shadows. Pretty simple, straightforward composition and painting. Just want to get something down on canvas for the day. So once I get that established, I begin painting in the shadow shapes using ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, and just a touch of white to kick the value down a little bit so it's not so dark, because it's not the darkest dark in the painting, this mass here, because it has a lot of reflected light. So just kind of got a general value and color of that shape. Once I get the full painting blocked in, then I worry about establishing the other shapes inside that shadow shape that starts to give you information about what's there. So like I say, right now it's just establishing the darks and the shadows pattern. Try not to get too caught up on details, as you see my brush, I call it buffering. My brain is, my brush will just kind of be hovering around, and my brain's kind of like, okay, where am I putting the brush down, and what am I going to make this mark? So it's kind of funny to watch the video back and see that. So yeah, just getting the shadows right now. Okay, that mark there was just, I put it down and look at it, contrast to the shadow already established. These are the trees in the background, which are the next step lighter in the shadow value pattern. So once I made some adjustments and got the value closer to what I wanted it to be, because it needs to contrast against the building there, but not be too dark in two lights. So you'll see right there against the building, that's a lighter value. I wasn't too concerned about the color or anything. I just wanted to get the value of what that shape of trees back there was against the building, because that's, every shape next to the other. I mean, that's I guess what they call the key to the painting is the value relationships. So like you've got to leave what I call headroom, I guess, between the values, so you can have room to maneuver lighter or darker, and maintain those relationships. Because if I go too light there, then this building face that's in the sunlight, once I get to it, then I've run out of value range to make it read. And of course, then the very lightest value is going to be the sky shape. And then this ground plane that I'm painting in right now is the next lightest. So sky, ground plane, vertical, facing the sun, facing the light, basically, will be the next step in the value going, in the light, the value in the light. So like right there, that's too light. So I darkened it up a little bit. Probably, it's easier to go darker to light in the dark than it is to darken a light. So, it's better to shoot for, because what I'm doing now is just making somewhat educated guesses to what the value is close to the color. So, go a little dark, and I can always, key it a little lighter as I manipulate the rest of the painting once I get it all blocked in. So here's the sky, and it was just pure titanium white with just a little lick of ultramarine blue and just a little bit of cad yellow light, because it had it's almost completely washed out looking sky. The sun was directly behind up there in that upper right quadrant. And so now I'm just I'm kind of fussing already. It shouldn't be. Softening the edges of that tree. But that's the way it goes sometimes. You can learn all the supposed rules and, put it into practice is a different thing. That's why we always have to go paint as often as we can to keep that muscle memory of what we're supposed to do. And now with the that color value that I already put down with the lighter sky value, I just kind of blended it together so it softens that tree, because there's no foliage on the tree right now. It's all basically just limbs. It's winter. So then I added some sky holes, which you'll see later in the video. I'll come in with the palette knife and kind of adjust the edges and all that stuff with the palette knife. So right now it's just kind of just plotting things out. Now I'm going and reestablishing some of those edges and dark shadow shapes there, because that's kind of the center of interest right there, obviously, with that overhang. And then there will be some highlights. See, because like I say, you leave yourself room to go lighter. So in that area around that darkest dark, I'll have my lightest light in that background. So just that's what was interesting to me, along with just the the buildings. But that was just kind of like using the perspective lines to just look back in that little alleyway. And now that the composition is blocked in completely, there's basically all the white of the canvas is covered. Now it's time to just start making adjustments and resolving the painting to a finish. As you can see right now, I'm lightening the value of that shadow shape, which I don't know how true it reads on the camera because there's, it's wet paint, so it's reflecting light itself. So it may look lighter here on camera than it did or does in person. And at this point, I try not to get too focused in one spot. I still try to work around the whole canvas, um, and not, like I say, get caught up in a spot. Try to bring it all to resolution together and don't overwork one area, which is very easy to do. Just, back and forth. Kind of had one brush I was using for my dark values and one brush I was using for lighter values. Just kind of going back and forth. Right here, I'm kind of figuring out the perspective on the tops of the windows, going down the side of this building. Just, and I have no black on my palette, so this is just my dark mixture of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, which basically can almost make it black. Because true black would just be a dead color on there. And with these windows along the building here, I just want indications of the window. I mean, there's no reason to fuss with putting all the framework and all of that. It would do nothing for the painting because, once again, just you want to do stuff that supports the focal point. And in this case, it's a very simple, straightforward painting. It's the overhang and the light back there in the shadows. So right now I'm just, I still want to kind of maintain the perspective. I mean, that would be something that a person's eye would immediately pick up on. That oh man, the perspective's like totally jacked up. So you got to still maintain the fundamentals of drawing and that kind of thing. Plus, you wouldn't want to see that dark is right against the edge of the canvas. You wouldn't want a dark against the edge of the painting. It just immediately pop your eye over there. So that value has to stay lighter than the darks back there where that overhang is. All right, now I'm introducing the palette knife into it and just manipulating the paint there to soften edges and break up the brush work. Just creates a little more interesting look to the painting. Whereas the brush, leaves these distinctive marks. I use hog hair bristle, natural bristle brushes, so they leave a pretty heavy brush mark. And for me, sometimes that just gets overwrought, and introducing the palette knife in to break up some of that brush work just, to me, makes the painting look a little better. Especially here in these trees, with no foliage on it, you just need those kind of a bare limb looks. There's a lot of sky peeking through, but I don't want to go and paint each individual tree limb. So just doing it with the palette knife like that. And now back to reestablishing some of the darks, the shapes, the darker shapes that are in that shadow shape. So that's, like I say, once again, leaving room to either go darker, go lighter, but still maintaining that whole value shape there as a dark. Just comes with practice. Here's the group that had joined me today. everybody's getting ready to go home. I got there a little later than everybody else. So I decided to stick around and work on it for a little bit longer.
What does
For
what?
the,
I mean,
Yeah.
like, and the thing, yeah, balancing that shadow shape while still having information in the shadow, because you can get the value too light, so then that shadow jumps, it competes with the light areas. So
Right.
I always squint. Squinting helps.
Yes. Yes. I forget that. I don't know why I forget that. It's such a simple thing to do.
But the squinting helps see the value.
Right.
that was a little real-time on-site explanation to one of my fellow painter friends. So caught that on video. Thought I'd leave that in there because it's always important to remember to squint. There I'm adding a little warmth and chroma to that ground plane. Just putting in some tree trunk shapes. Nothing too heavy-handed. Just some general idea that those are trees back there. You always want to remember, it's. I hate to use the reference to like a play or something. You have the main character, and everybody else is there to support that main character. It's an easy reference to make, I guess, but it does make sense. I mean, right, I say right there with that sunlight on that edge of the building and the dark shadows, that's an immediate take your eye right there, center of interest. At this point, I'm just fixing a few areas that needed to be addressed, cleaning up some shapes and dressing it out, make it more, I don't know, to my eye, finished. There's never a finished painting. And so just adding some, those shadows under the windowsills here, just those little extra touches. Like I say, once again, I don't want to try to draw too much attention to them, but just there to say, oh, that's a window. That's the bottom edge of the window. And I'll put a highlight on the sill on those bottom windows because, my eyes was above that level, so I was seeing that surface of the windowsill to have little highlights there. Well, this one's wrapping up to a finish here. I'm just adding some, once again, some reflected light, even though that's in shadow. The shadows aren't completely black. There's light in the shadows, and you just have to balance that out. It allows for some color even in a dark area like that, which I don't know that it really. I mean, there's a lot of blue and green in that right there. So it's pretty much done right here.
That is hilarious. I brought butt pillow.
Well, whatever it takes to get the job done.
So I guess we'll look out and see how next week is.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get lucky again.
Yeah. I think we are going to do it. I really tried.
Okay, losing the light. Clouds are moving in. I'm basically done. Finish this one up. Where's it at? Right there. This 9x12 at the old woolen mill here in Cleveland, Tennessee. Just finished up with my little plein air group here, the Southeast Tennessee Plein Air Painters. They've all packed up and gone. we're blessed with a beautiful day today after all this cold, nasty weather we've had. So anyway, if you're ever in this area, we're close to Chattanooga, southeast Tennessee, look us up if you ever want to come out and paint with us on a Friday afternoon or in the morning once the summer gets here. So anyway, I'm Todd Durr. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. And thank you for my latest subscribers who finally put me over the 1,000 subscriber mark. It's taken me forever, but anyway, I'm going to keep making videos, good or bad, and I appreciate you tuning in. Thanks.